Hey everybody, my name is Chase Pipes and you're watching Chasing History, brought to you by the Smoky Mountain Relic Room, and we are back out in the wilds of Wyoming with Ty Lamb. Ty,
Hi.
thanks for having us out. Ty, what are we doing on this site?
Well, this is the old town of Fossil, and what we were doing here is we were called up and we were asked to come out and try to help kind of look at the site over, do some metal detecting, do some treasure hunting, see if we could find some artifacts, save them while they're doing this restoration here that they can put in the museum when they get this refurbished.
See, and that's a really great thing to be able to do, because no matter what historic site you're going to be at, there's going to be artifacts and stuff there. And so, a lot of times the museums that you see, a lot of their artifacts come from guys like Ty who get called out, who get called out to go and find some stuff for their museum. So this is a great opportunity to find some really cool stuff for an epic ghost town.
Yeah.
So, all right, man. Well, let's get at it.
Yeah, let's
see what
find
we can
something.
So one of the things that we're out here doing is that, we're trying to find some artifacts for this museum, and one of the easiest ways to find artifacts is metal detect. The same natural processes that happened, today happened back then. You reach into your pocket, you pull out some stuff, and some change falls. You go down to get it and you pick up what you see, but you miss what you don't see. And so this is what we're finding. What we're looking for is the loose stuff, the things that people dropped just in their daily lives, doing their daily routine. And it will amaze you with how much stuff people lose over the years. So the easiest thing for us to do is, to get started anyhow, is to grab our metal detectors, do a good sweep of the area to see what kind of loose things that we can really quickly find. It's a simple, easy, and quick way to get them the artifacts that they need for their museum. So we've got our machines and we're gonna swing and see what we can find. So yeah, bounce around.
While Chase, Ty, and Katie keep looking for some cool remains of the town, we decide to catch up with Roland Lewis, the owner of the ranch we are on today and who donated the land for the train depot restoration.
Roland Brian Lewis. I'm 88, and I was born and raised on the ranch about 3 miles south of here in the ranch house. I was born in January 1936. My granddad was born in this country, but he was conceived in Ireland. The Irish were so discriminated against, they didn't stay on the coast. They came inland to Janesville, Wisconsin, and that's where Granddad Richard Henry Lewis was born. He left home at 14, living in Wisconsin, and worked as a mariner on the Great Lakes. He drove freight from 1860 to 1864.
Okay, so
4 years.
okay.
And he came to Evanston in 1864. While he was in Evanston, he acquired and ran a bar, so he had his own brewery.
Wow.
Even though he had the bar in Evanston, the land he bought was at Almy, which is maybe 4 miles west of Evanston, and that's where he had his house and raised his family. He liked to ride. He liked to get around. That's where he rode as far as out here. 1870, regularly through the summer, he would drive the wagon with team and come out here and work and building the cabin that he had, which was right down here where Ulrich's Gallery is now. Initially, he was taking up land east of here, which would have been where the first fossil was. But another man jumped his claim. The court was in Evanston because this was Uena County then. His witness had pneumonia and wasn't able to make the trip, so he lost that claim. So then his second claim was, when he made this claim, it was part of the Homestead Act. If I understand right, it was 320, because I don't know how he managed getting that 320 and also to where he owned the whole Section 8. That part, nobody has told me any stories about.
Moving to a new land, settling an area, and property disputes, this family really is living out the American West lifestyle. Now let's check back on the team and see what they are up to.
So when we're metal detecting, what we're listening for is we're listening for the tone and also the numbers that are on the screen. So as we run this metal detector over, hear the beeps, all right? That beep shows that there's a metal signature in the ground. But you know, this is an old site that's got a lot of trash in it, so we don't want to dig every metal signature. We only want to dig the signatures that have a good tone. That's got decent tone, actually, but not good enough. Over time, this is how you learn to use a metal detector. Over time, you learn what to look for and what not to look for. You learn your machine. It's like when I tell people when they go metal detecting, what they need to do is to dig 1,000 holes, and then you'll find something. Hey, now that's exactly what we want. All right, see how, listen to the sound of the tone. See how it's got that high-pitched sound? That is exactly what we want. So now we can narrow in on it. And so we scrape the dirt, it gets just louder. Now look at your screen. So it's got that good loud tone. So let's get, it's close to the surface, so oh, yeah! Oh my God, this is freaking, shut up. This is freaking cool. What? Yes! Yes, this is cool. And what's neat is that it really talks to the history of the railroad. So this is the handle off of a trunk. So that's all this is just a trunk handle, really highly decorated trunk handle. So this is probably that something when someone was carrying, you know, a trunk or even a dresser. This actually looks more like a dresser handle. Maybe somebody was moving, offloading a dresser or something from the railroad. The handle broke and they just said to hell with it and left it because the tracks are just right over there. So we're not, you know, 15, 20 feet from the tracks. Yes, that is cool. And it's a really diagnostic piece that's easy for people to understand. So this is going to make a great artifact for their museum that they're putting in. So just a real cool artifact. And that's what's so important about what we're doing is that we are actually looking at the site for the artifacts at the site. Because when people come to a museum, they don't really want to see artifacts, especially if they're going to a historical site. They don't want to see artifacts from over here or over there. They want to see the stuff from here. And so it's just so awesome to, you know, be able to come out here and metal detect and find some great history that nobody's seen in over 120 years so that they can put it on display here at their museum. So, that's awesome. Cool find. Let's see what else we can find.
Lot of garbage. But one high signal in the middle of it. Weedy. 23 D. How dark it is, patina on it.
Let's check back in on Mr. Lewis and see if he knows a little more about the people who used to live here.
In 1882, when the train arrived, they even had the roundhouse where they worked on the engines. They even had it a mile east. And there was houses kind of sporadic, but they weren't much of a house. Granddad even had a bar there, but they couldn't stop the freights. Fossil was established in 1882. Kimmer was not established until 1898. Took them until 1902 to decide to move the town a mile west to where the freights could get stopped. So they picked up the depot, they picked up all the houses. There was, that house next door there was a railroad house.
Mm-hmm.
The maintainer house, 5 houses that they moved. And they did that in 1902. So then with that moving, a group of people named that they called it the Fossil Town Site Company. Granddad gave them 40 acres, and Fred Rollins gave him an adjoining 40 acres. So they had 80 acres in the town site, and they did up a plat and advertised it and sold lots, and guys came in and established a store that was called a sheepman's store, because about then those huge herds of sheep came into the area.
So only after a few short years, the people of Fossil realized they were going to have to pick up their town and move it over a mile. Let's check back in on the team and see how many miles of metal detecting they have done on the town.
One of the interesting thing about this site is the water situation. So we're in a dry, deserty area, but there is local water here. The water that's local here is incredibly hard water. Now, I'm sure some of you guys have showers or area where you live where you have hard water, where you have to add softeners to that water. So what hard water is water that has a lot of calcium within it, a lot of minerals within it. And so if they were to put this straight hard water into the train engines, that calcium would build up in the engine and would destroy the train. So they would need to soften that water, just like you soften your water at home. They would have to soften it here. And if you look around, we've got these epic settling tanks. Here's a good one right here that you can look down into. And this is where they would drain the water down into here, and let it settle. And it has interconnecting pumps all around through where they could, add the chemicals necessary in order to soften the water. But all throughout here are these really unique settling tanks for the water situation. There's another big one right here. Another huge one right here. This is a great big one. This is probably a main access. Then we've got another one right here, right by where the water tank was, which the water tank would have been right here. So that's an aspect that you don't see in a lot of these ghost towns or a lot of these railroad stops is having to deal with hard water. And it's something that we didn't realize until we discussed it with the local historians. So yeah, all right, let's see what else we can find.
While the town of Fossil was under development, the people of the town looked for things to do. In this next clip, Mr. Lewis explains the activities his father and grandfather would participate in while living there.
Dad was born in 1879. His name was William. His playmates here were Indians. The Indians lived all over where the town of Fossil eventually became. A lot of the bench where the Indians lived was cut out by the highway when they made that big cut through there.
Oh, wow.
Because we used to find all sorts of, relics, arrowheads, spears, cooking things. We don't know if it was Shoshone, Arapaho, or Blackfoot. They would leave here in the summers, and it made no sense to me why they would come here for the winter.
Did he remember any of the games that they would play?
They played baseball. That was their primary, was playing baseball. I bet you their bats didn't resemble anything like the current bat. They would interact primarily with Granddad and racing horses. The main one that I was told about by Granddad's little horse he called Pat. And really popular race was man against man on horse. And it was a pole race. It was roughly 50 yards. So the man and the guy on the horse would race to the pole, around the pole, and back to the start. And that's where Granddad won all sorts of blankets and stuff from the Indians, because Pat was so good at it, he'd just flat crowd the guy away from the pole.
Wow.
Pat knew his race, and he was small and quick and whatever. And there was times Dad said that Granddad would send Pat without a rider, and he would run the race against the Indian. The horse would run against the Indian man and run the race. And then Dad said the Indians were kind of tired of losing to him, so they wanted to run the longer races. So they stole some horses to run against Granddad, and thinking they would be running against Pat. But Granddad had other horses, so he would run the races and beat them because he had horses were good for racing. I don't think they bet horses. I think, because Indians didn't want to lose their horse,
Right.
because they didn't have that many of them. My grandmother had in her bedroom, she had such a stack of Indian blankets. That Granddad had won off the Indians and all.
Wow.
The Lewis family sure did live the cowboy life while in Fossil. Let's check back in on the team and see if they had any luck finding some stuff for the train depot.
So, Ty, we've got a lot of trash coming out of this hole.
Yes, we
Katie
do.
just pulled up another jar. What do we got?
Well, as we were metal detecting, we're always finding garbage as well as something good.
Yeah.
But what we found was actually the lid on one of these jars, and as we dug it up, we could see all this rust and ash and cinder coming out. So as we dug around, suddenly it turned into a trash pit. We're not sure if it's just a trash pit or an old privy that's filled in, but this was everything that they threw away during this time period ended up in this hole. One of the things that's interesting, if they're privies, is a lot of times they would use them, they would fill up, and they would just slide them 10 feet, use them again. So sometimes you get these sites that are 100 plus years old. There may be 2, 3, 5, 6 of them in a row, 10 feet apart. So we'll come back and we will probe along the line here where we think the back fence would have been, and that's a good area for more privies to come out. Maybe we'll get into some older stuff.
You can see the stuff that we're pulling out of here. Most of this stuff is 50s and later, which is towards the very end of the life of the town. These are little honey jars, and then we've got these jelly jars. These are little jelly jars where they would put strawberry or blueberry jelly in. Those are pretty neat.
The green one's a prune juice.
Yeah, prune juice, and it's still got its label on it. What's neat about out here is it's so dry, things still remain. Like here's a pair of shoes. Things don't rot as quickly. So perishable stuff lasts, so things last a lot longer. There's a little fingernail brush right there. So this is the stuff that's coming out of the top. And when the stuff that comes out of the top is your later stuff. That's the last era that they use this. So theoretically, the deeper down we go, the older the stuff is gonna be. So we just gotta get in here and dig and hopefully find some stuff. Ty, grab that bone that's right next to you.
No.
It's on the other side right there.
Yeah, there's a lot of bones coming out in here. You can see what they were eating.
Yep.
You can see it's been sawed off. I believe that's probably a pork. That's pig.
Yeah, that's pig.
That's pig.
That's pig.
I've seen some bunch that look like sheep in here.
But outhouses are really great because it really can tell you a lot about the life of the people that lived here. Not only what they were eating, but what they were drinking as well.
And just like today, the kids throw the silverware away.
Yeah, there's a killer spoon. It's wild what you'll find in the bottom of some of these because, I've dug one where you could tell there was a smart ass little kid that threw stuff down in there because there was his sister's doll heads. There was, big rocks and stuff, just to go kerplunk. Marbles, all kinds of stuff you'll find in a privy. So, well, we're gonna keep digging and see what else we can find.
Yep.
Hey everybody, my name is Chase Pipes, and thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Chasing History. What a lot of people don't realize is that Chasing History is made possible by our business, the Smoky Mountain Relic Room. The Smoky Mountain Relic Room is the largest diversity of history for sale anywhere in North America, and our obsession knows absolutely no bounds. From meteorites to fossils, minerals, and artifacts covering every culture on the planet. We work directly with the men and women who are in the field discovering this history, and we offer it for sale to you for a very affordable price. We believe here at the Relic Room that everybody should be able to afford history, not just some random dude up on a hill, but everybody should be able to take this history and to protect it and to pass it down for future generations. And that is the opportunity that we offer you here at the Smoky Mountain Relic Room. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Chasing History. Now back to the episode.
The town of Fossil is one of the richest areas in the world for finding fossils. The Lewis family is a big part in the discovery of a lot of these fossils. Let's hear from Mr. Lewis to see just how they got involved in fossils.
Arlie Craig, he was a doctor. He came out and he got acquainted with my grandfather. Grandfather let him open a quarry up Smith Hollow. That was the first fossil quarry in the area. He had a tent camp up there, spring, everything, you know. He'd gradually bring the fossil into the town here and then do his prep work. When the railroad moved the depot and the maintenance buildings and all, and the water tower and all that, in order to do it here, they got an easement from Granddad to use his property. But they didn't bring the roundhouse. And it was 1902. Kemmer was established in 1898, and the water supply, everything was better at Kemmer, so they moved the roundhouse to Kemmer, and that's where the engine maintenance was done. Many of the railroad workers that would have been located here ended up going to Kemmer. Because of the grade, they maintained operators in the depot to signal the trains and all, because they had helper engines come from Kemmer to Fossil here, and then when the freight would pull in, the helper would connect on and push them up the grade to get over Tunnel Hill going to Kemmer.
While it seems the end is near for the new town of Fossil, the people of the town still find their purpose by aiding the trains into the next town. Now, when the town was still functioning, the people who stopped there needed a place to do their business, and Chase and Ty believe they have stumbled across the last remaining outhouse in the town of Fossil.
So Ty, this is the privy that we've got, right?
Yeah, it's a two-seater, I think.
The big question is this the only spot that it's been on, and how long it's been there?
Well, it's been here long enough they either had to have dipped it or they moved it, so.
So when Ty talks about dipping, what that is a lot of times they'll hire a company come in, you know, I mean, these get full. And so companies exist that would go in and pull all the poop out and then haul it off somewhere and dump it. That's dipping.
Yeah.
You know, this would have seen a lot of traffic. So there's a good chance it probably could have been dipped instead of moving it to another place. Because the railroad's literally right behind you.
Yep,
we've got the railroad depot right there. People getting off the train to stretch, relax, need to go to the bathroom.
Yep.
There gets to be a lot of poop over time.
Yeah.
But the question is how is it lined? All right. And that is where all the action happened, right there. But let's see if we can get some light down there. So it looks like wood lined.
Wood lined, so it's a little bit better built.
So better built.
Meant to last.
I don't know how. There's poop all the way up to the top, just about. So, you know, even if they did dip it,
yeah,
they wouldn't have gotten all the way to the
bottom. No, they didn't
bottom.
clean the bottom, so anything heavy would have settled right to the very bottom before it turned into dirt.
Right. So this still could be a good thing, man.
You know, and that's something that people might not understand, is even though this was poop and feces, that's 100 years ago. This is dirt. I mean, this is what dirt is made of. It is no longer, we're not climbing around. It doesn't stink. It doesn't,
I don't know.
it's not fresh. It's dirt.
It smells a little odd.
Well, sometimes, yeah, but it's just dirt. It doesn't hurt you. It doesn't have, there's nothing.
The
bad
only
about
places that you have to worry about is if you're digging an outhouse in a very humid area where water has stayed on that poop for so long, that water allows the bacteria to still thrive and survive. There are some places in South Carolina, specifically in the Charleston area, you can't dig the outhouses there because that fecal has been wet since it's been deposited, and that bacteria is still there working. But in a dry, arid climate place like this, where no water's gotten to it, where it's gotten a chance to dry out, it is literally turned to dirt, and it's probably really good dirt that you would want to put on your garden.
Yeah.
So this is a two-seater, so this is one. This must be the other. Oh, that's so freaking cool, dude. There's a Victrola. Ah!
Somebody put it in here to try to keep it.
Oh my God! Oh, there's a nest of rabbits. Give me the camera. That is so. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Look. Aw, hold on. Hold this.
Nest
Nest of rabbits, dude. There's
of baby rabbits.
Yes, look. Look at the baby rabbits. I don't know how to operate this stupid thing.
That's
There we go.
a goofy place for rabbits.
I know, that is such a weird place for rabbits. All right, so we're obviously not going to be digging over here. Look, there's a skull of something down in there too.
But didn't make it.
No,
Last
that's-
year's baby
that's-
rabbits.
That's like a deer or something. This is weird. Because I mean, this is a Victrola, and that's the outhouse right there. Oh man, that is
just shows
way
how
cool.
nature will take back over if you let it be. The skull and the bones and stuff is a pack rat nest. They
So-
bring in bones and things like that. Pack rats. They bring in.
Those little critters there are pack rats?
No, those are rabbits. But the
Okay.
nest, all this debris, all these wood sticks and bones, is a pack rat nest.
Oh,
they line their
that's
nest
cool.
with bones and cactuses and stuff like that. That's why the old ones, they go back like 30,000 years, and they're
Yeah.
a great cross section of the entire environment.
Pack rats will grab whatever they can from the environment and take it down and incorporate it into their nest. Archaeologists are actually going to pack rat nests, that, like Ty was saying, can be up to 30,000 years old, to see what kind of plants were present on the environment, what kind of animals were there, because they'll just drag in everything. That is so crazy.
Pretty neat.
So
It's been sitting here a while.
I know, right? So we'll leave the rabbits alone. So we moved away from the old depot back up against this hill where the town of Fossil proper was. I'm up on a high ground, there's lower ground. It's not that high, just a couple feet, but it's high enough that this is the first dry area, which is why there's a house right here. If we look right here, we see this rock foundation running here. So I just walked in what could have been the front door. We've got a foundation running here, foundation running all through here. We are literally standing in somebody's living room. This was a living room in the town of Fossil. We go towards the back, and what do we find in the back? But what we would expect to find, which is a cellar. Every home had to have these. This is what kept your food dry, what kept them fresh, what kept it sealed. So right out of the back of the house is a cellar. But there's something neat back here too. So behind the house and behind the cellar would have been the barn. The barn would have been a pole barn, so it didn't need a proper foundation. But what's awesome is if we look back here, we've got the wagon literally rotted to the ground. This is the wagon axle, and where the buckboard would have attached, you can see one axle running here. Here's the hub where the wheel would have attached on. There's the axle. If you get on this side, you can see it a lot better. But that is literally a wagon that has rotted to the ground in the town of Fossil. You just don't really get much of an opportunity to see this kind of history, except for in the American West, because back east this stuff rots, gets hauled away, traded. Dude, we are not near nothing. Like, we're not near anything. And this stuff has laid since the town was abandoned in the 1950s. So this would have been an 1800s wagon that has long since rotted away in its place and has not been moved since the turn of the century. So if we look behind us, we've got one of the only other buildings that is still standing from the town of Fossil. This is a little home, but what's unique about the home is look at how it's made and look at what it's made of. It's made of railroad ties. So every so often they would pull up the railroad ties and would just chuck them where people could grab them and use them. So the person that lived in this home grabbed these railroad ties and actually made a house out of it. But check this out. If you look inside, we've got a pile of sticks right here. Now what creates these pile of sticks is pack rats. But look inside. This house is completely chock full of all kinds of awesome history. This is just a place for the local rancher to stash stuff so that it gets out of the weather and that it's secured. But this is a really unique home and one of the only 2 homes that is still standing from the town of Fossil, Wyoming. So the main town would have been back here. The house that we checked out earlier is right over there where all that sagebrush is grown up behind us. The depot is right over there that we're working. So yeah, one of the only buildings still standing from the town of Fossil, but made out of railroad ties. Now if that isn't ingenuity, I don't know what is. That's awesome. Now here's one thing that I want to show you guys. So we were just down in the valley down there. If you look, there's the railroad depot. Now we're up on a hill opposite of it. Now this is a great place for people to live because it's up high and it's out of that low marshy area. If you look behind me, we've got what's left of a cabin. Again, another cabin that's made out of railroad ties. Check this out. So they would take the extra railroad ties and they made this cabin out of it. Probably local lumber from the mountains north of here. So just an excellent use of the resource and up high. But it's so important to save these historical places. Unfortunately, this one is a little bit too far gone to be saved. But what's neat is if you look around, look at all the tin off of the roof and, you know, parts of stoves and everything that's left. There are so many places like this. Here's the front side of this here, and it's a shame because here's the kitchen stove, or not the kitchen stove, but the kitchen cupboard is right here. Just a real simple 1-room cabin is what this was, probably for a small family or someone that worked on the railroad. What's equally important and that you always have to look for out here is the root cellars. Now come here, away from the house, over here we've got the collapsed remnants of the root cellar right here. So again, this is a place where they would store all of their perishable fruits and vegetables. So you can look down right here and there's the root cellar right there. Not very deep, doesn't have to be very deep, but you see the shelves right down there? That's where they would have stacked their mason jars that were lid, the potatoes, whatever they needed to stack, they would stack. You know, only in the American West do you get places like this. In other parts of the world, you really don't see a lot of this type of stuff, but here in the American West, you do. There are so many of these literally all over the American West. I mean, tens of thousands of these are scattered throughout the American West. I hope that part of this episode will inspire some of you guys to actually get out there, contact the landowners, and do what you can to save these historical sites before they're lost forever. If you want to know where America's history is, right there. That's America's history. Do your best to take care of it.
As time went on, the town slowly dwindled down, but was still surviving. Mr. Lewis remembers what it was like growing up here when he was a kid. Let's hear what he has to say.
Ranch kids would still come to the school. By my time, they were mostly driving in. Early time, they actually rode in because they had a yard at the school where the horses could be tied.
Wow.
And that. Because I know Jokoski's rode from the upper ranch, which would have been 6 miles. They had regular dances at the school. They used local musicians, so they would play for the dances. Mom and Dad were known for their dancing, you know.
Really?
So I can remember very young being brought to the dances because it would be quite a social because all the kids would come. The adults would dance and all, and then they'd have refreshments. Lots of good things to eat, or cakes, or whatever, you know.
Over 130 years later of people settling the area, Chase explores across from the depot and discovers foundation and some buildings left standing from the town.
Another interesting house type that you want to look for on some of these old sites is what's known as a pit house. And we've got a great example down here. On these pit houses, the only thing that's really left is the depression in the ground, but it was just, especially in areas that were, not very, very forested. If you can use the earth as walls and the little trees that you can for the sides, that's what they would do. And so that's what this depression in the ground is this is a dugout pit house where they would actually just dig into the hillside and then take what lumber they had to build a few feet up and then a roof, and this would have been your home. And it's a very common house type in the American West are these pit houses, especially in areas like this where there's not a lot of timber. So just another example. It's really cool to see this example here at the town of Fossil because it's showing almost all types of house construction that was common during the late 19th century. We've got one more building behind us that we didn't see earlier. This is a barn or a chicken coop. What you have to keep in mind is a lot of these people were living a self-sufficient lifestyle. Even though the railroad was right there, they were still living self-sufficient. So this would have been a barn where they would have kept their horses or livestock or chickens, and it's just another one of the buildings that are falling apart. So just another piece of American history that's going by the wayside. You can see some of the metal tin roof. Here's the gap where you would have entered into the barn. So we would have entered right here. So this is what's left of the barn for that homestead right there. So no matter what, on all of these historic ranch homes, there's gonna be a trash pit. They didn't have trash pickup back then. They literally just threw it wherever. This is the trash pickup for this cabin right here. So if you looked in on the ground, we've got all kinds of burnt, empty cans, broken glass bottles, everything. If we come back further in here, we've got more tin cans and bottles and just all kinds of just trash right back behind here. So they didn't have trash pickup back then. So they literally either found a hole or in this case, right behind the root cellar, just threw all of their trash back behind the root cellar. A lot of times in gullies, they'll just throw it in. They weren't producing the amount of trash that we produce today. You gotta keep in mind, most of the stuff that they were getting was reusable and in biodegradable packaging like wood. So, there wasn't as much trash as we've got today. So there was really no need for a trash pickup. But this is just another really cool thing to look for and a really neat aspect of any kind of homestead or ranch or in a ghost town that you want to look for is the trash pit. All right, so Ty just found something that's very diagnostic. What do we got here, Ty?
So this is the edge of the outhouse. So what they would have done is they would have, when they dug the hole, a lot of times they would build a wood box around the outside of the hole to keep it from caving in. The last thing you want to do is go out, use the outhouse, and fall down the hole.
And so it can kind of tell us a little bit of the age of the outhouse too.
Depending on the type of nails, the age of the nails, the size of the wood.
So we've got a mix of round nails, which is early 1900s, and a few square nails that they're reusing, which is late 1800s. So this is definitely with the round nails in it is going to be early 1900s, probably contemporary with the town around 1902. So that's a great sign that we're on the right track.
Something you find a lot on these outhouses, especially when you first start, are bricks, large rocks. So what they were trying to do was actually compact the pile. They would throw stuff down there to try to give themselves a little bit more time to use it before they had to fill it in and be done with it.
I should have brought a bigger shovel. What we got there, Ty?
Cow bone.
Looks like a bone.
Yeah, it's
cow bone?
Knuckle off a cow bone.
Oh, that's awesome.
So you can tell what they were eating.
That's a great indicator that we are in fact in an outhouse, because how would a cow knuckle be 3 feet down in a hole under the ground? I mean, we're next to the highway, but people aren't throwing cow knuckles off the highway.
They're not digging 3-foot holes of
right, throwing cow knuckles.
So one of the other things we're seeing is we're finding pieces of coal, cinder. So they were dumping their ashes down here, dumping their garbage down here, getting rid of the stinking cow bones so they weren't flies and maggots here in the yard, get rid of them.
But the bones are great things to find because that shows you what type of stuff they were eating. So it's a great indicator of what they're eating. But we still got a long ways to go. Yep. Well, we ran into an unexpected problem. One that in a dry deserty area you don't expect to find, and that's water. If you look down in our hole, we've hit the water table. Water's coming in. Now, you know, Ty and I have both dug a ton of outhouses, and just from our figuring, we've probably got another 3 feet to go.
At least another 3 feet.
Before we get to the bottom, which
I did
means,
not bring my snorkel.
which means that the stuff we want to find is once we get the dirt out, this is going to fill up like a well.
Yeah.
And the only way to really attack this is to put a pump down in it and pump the water out, which we don't have the equipment to do.
Or come back later in the year, hopefully in a drier season, and it'll be the water table will drop.
Water will be a lot dry.
Yep.
But I mean, the thing that we know is we know 100% we've got an outhouse just because of the things that we pulled out. You know, we pulled that cow bone out of it. We pulled some big pieces of coal. There's some other big pieces of what they call clinkers, which is coal that didn't ignite. So what they would do is they would just throw it where the rest of the trash with, and then of course some big thick window glass. So, and
if you look at the dirt we're pulling out of here, see how black it is? That's all ash and cinders. That's all soot. That's all ash. So that is not just dirt we're pulling out of there. That stuff that's been dumped down in there is garbage.
Right, because what they would do is that coal ash is really powdery, and you don't want to just throw that out back behind the house. So they would take the buckets and dump it in the outhouse pit, and also as a way to keep the stink down of the outhouse as well. So yeah, well, looks like we're not going to get to dig.
Fill
this
in a
one.
hole, and we'll mark it for a later date.
Yep. All right. Well, what we'll do is we'll keep exploring the area and see what other things that we can find.
While the team keeps looking, let's head back to Mr. Lewis and see how he was approached to restore the train depot.
I told him if he wanted to restore the building, I would just donate it to him. So I donated it to his organization, and through it they've been able to get grants and donations to be working and restoring it. And there was a lot of work then that they had to do to restore and put a hidden foundation because they want it to look original on the exterior. So they're trying to build it according to what would have been back in its day. I'm happy with the old depot because besides the building, I donated them an acre and a half of land to do whatever they can around it, you know.
With the train depot being restored, there is no better time than now to do a little more exploring inside of the building.
So we spent a couple days outside exploring the area, trying to find what artifacts that we could for this museum. One place that we think could have a lot of great stuff is literally right beneath our feet. If you look, you see these floorboards were just put in recently, not too long ago. These are very close to the original floors that would have been here, just rough sawn logs, nothing fancy, nothing flush. If you look down here, we've got cracks going through these floors, and over time, this wood will actually shrink, causing these cracks to increase. Now, you've got stuff in your pocket, you pull it out, you drop it, coins, paper, anything falls down beneath the cracks. They've done a little bit of exploration underneath the floors and found some a great cache of antique documents and a few other things, some marbles. So we know that there's stuff down beneath our feet. It hasn't been explored completely yet, and that's what we're going to do right now. So come with me, and we're going to hop down the hole. We've got a place that's exposed down here. Watch your step. So we've got a place here that's exposed. Turn this flashlight on. This is where they're fixing to tear out all this flooring and redo this. So I'm going to hop down here and see what we can find underneath the floors. Let me get the camera and I'll show you what this looks like, guys. So I'm gonna squeeze down here. So, I wish you guys could smell this because it smells terrible. So here you can see the extent of underneath. So this was dug in the ground a little bit, not much, but all underneath through here is the possibility that there will be things just underneath the dust. So what we are going to do is we're gonna crawl down through, hand that back up to you. We're gonna crawl down through with our metal detector, using our metal detector to see what kind of artifacts that we can find. So break this thing down, turn this thing on. Isaac, you think you can hop down here? Okay. All right, I'll give you the flashlight, and I'll turn my headlamp on. All right, guys, into the depths we go. All right, guys, so this is literally underneath the floor. So basically, there's all kinds of stuff down here, from rat poop to bottles to whatever. So we're gonna take our metal detector and just slowly work through and hope that we find some stuff. So we're just gonna leave the camera rolling. Isaac's gonna keep an eye on me as I work my way around, and then if when we find something, we'll bring you guys back. So. There's a barrel down here. That's awesome. Check out that old wooden barrel. That's awesome. That was that's a cask, probably used for alcohol. What's neat is you can see the bunghole on the cask. That's what that part is right there. That, believe it or not, is called the bunghole. It's got some writing on it. That is a super neat piece, man. That's probably, so this is a railroad depot, so this would have been very typical freight that would have been used. You know, you would have carried stuff in big oak barrels like that. That is just neat. So we'll spin back around. I'll show you guys some more of the area that's underneath here. So I'm gonna make my way that way over into that corner where we got some room and work along the edges. Part of a rake. Oh, I know what it's gonna be. It's gonna be a damn square nail, I bet. Nope. Like lantern. Got our first neat find. What I do for history, I'm laying in rat crap. So this is our first find. This is part of a little handheld lantern. So this is the part where the wick goes through. So the wick would have gone up from the top here, and this is where the flame would have been, and then the wick would have extended down into here, down into the kerosene or the oil that they were using it. This little thing right here is used to adjust it to make it brighter, bringing the wick up, or make it dimmer, bringing the wick down. So that's a neat artifact, especially since it's here. So we're gonna take that and give that to the guys. So if you can look behind me, you'll see, so what they had to do is they had to prepare a foundation for this building. So they dug a little cellar, not much, just enough to bring the rocks down to get a good foundation. So what they would do is they would dig down about 2 feet, a little wider than what they wanted the building, and then they would stack these rocks up here all along the edge, and then they would lay the timber for building the building on the rocks. Now this building was moved, so they would have had to have excavated this, you know, dug this out and had it set to this precise size of the building that was being moved down. So, but yeah, they're huge, heavy rocks. Just about on any building from this era or back, you're gonna have major foundation rocks, either on the corners or like this building extending all the way around. There's about 1 inch of dirt. That's a big metal something. Big metal bar, glass, rat skull. A rabbit died under here, or several rabbits died under here. I'm not sure what that is. Set you on a tripod, and that way you guys can see what we're doing. So, here's what we've just pulled out. Show you guys what we got going on. So, we have got, and forgive me guys, I'm doing my best to learn how to operate this. So here, we have got some animal skulls. So it looks like some rabbits. Some rabbit skulls here. I'm not sure what this is. If anybody has there was a telegraph office here. If anybody has an idea of what this is, please throw it in the comments. It's an unusual piece of metal. It's got a little attachment right there. So, but this is what we just pulled out. I wanted to show you guys. This is pretty cool. Really nice piece of lantern. So that was down here at the bottom of the steps, probably left. What's interesting is there's this real heavy glass right here. So that was probably left there. So I am gonna spin you guys around, set you down, and I'm gonna continue to swing and see what else we can find. Dude, there's been 2 or 3 feet of dirt on top of here because there's another staircase. So let me show you guys what we got going on, what I mean. So there's been a lot of fill coming in here. So, I mean, it really, which means that it needs to be dug out, like entirely dug out. So let me show you this, guys. All right, so here we've got the staircase going down, okay? Staircase going down, and then now look at this staircase right here. See how the bottom step is on the dirt? Well, you're not gonna put your bottom step on the dirt. You're gonna put it about a foot above the dirt. So what that means is that there's a foot of dirt that's built up underneath this. So probably what we're gonna find is beyond the reach of our metal detectors, which kind of stinks, but we'll still walk around and give it our best shot and see what we can find. There's another one of them things. These things probably mean something. Yeah, there's another one. I wonder if these went down into the battery for the telegraph. So we've got another one of these things right here. So look right there. This is another one of those cables that have a little grommet attached to it there. And it's 3 plates sticking up. So I'm wondering if that doesn't have something to do with the telegraph. So what we'll do is we'll add it to our pile of the other one here, and we will give it to the museum and let them do some discovery on it to figure out exactly what it is. And I'm gonna keep going. All right, guys, let me show you. You wanna see and know how there can be so much dirt and dust coming into down here? This is a great example. This is a little drift, okay? I'll grab you and bring you with me. Look here. See that pile of dirt right there that's piling in? That is how dust and dirt gets in here. So we go up and we look. There's a little opening to the outside right there. And that little opening, just the wind blows dust over here and creates this mound of dirt right here. And it's all these little openings all along here. The dirt comes in and settles and will raise the floor a couple of feet. So, all right, we are going to keep on going and see what else we can drum up. Well, there's a button. So here we've got a little grommet, not much, but it's a little button that would have been on a bib overalls or something like that. So, all right, I'm gonna roll this barrel out. Yeah, this is a cool barrel, guys. Looking at it a little closer, I would say, oh, grab my microphone. Up this way. All right, time coming to that big opening. Chase history, we say. You wanna go chase history? Look, this is what chase history, rat poop. Rat poop, look, there's more rat poop. Rat poop. All right, oh, hold on. I'll get you with you, ready?
What's the Donkey Kong music?
Look, it's got a name on the bunghole. Wouldn't they stamp that on the
St.
barrel?
Louis. I mean, it's just a manufacturer. It's not a It's not a railroad.
A railroad.
WDJ Leap.
So that's really interesting. They would have put, yeah, their information on the bunghole there. So that would have been the entry and exit for whatever liquid was inside of this. While barrels did hold dry goods, some barrels would hold liquids, and so that was your access to hold liquids was right there. So to tap it. It would be neat to know what was in here. There may be some identifying marks later on, but until we can get it out and really look at it, there's no way we're gonna know what it is. But what you gotta keep in mind, guys, is this was the cardboard box of its day. This was the plastic jug of its day. This is where they carried all of their stuff, was in barrels like this. So from flour to liquor to anything that was out there, the barrels were the cardboard box of their day. And for a long time. And because they were a disposable item, not very many survive. So to actually find one that survives is incredibly, incredibly rare, especially in the place where it has laid, like this train depot, which deals with freight going to, from, back and forth. This is a really important artifact for the history of this building, and is a big enough piece that it might make a really great center display for their museum. What's really interesting is that the Plains Indians during the Native American era would actually take these bands and would cut and fashion arrowheads out of them, which is really freaking cool. You see the arrowheads every now and then, but where they would get the iron to make the points. So that's a neat piece. Guys, we're sitting down with Paul Kester, who's the president of the Fossil Basin Institute, who is in charge for reconstructing these incredible historic buildings. Paul, thank you so much for having us on site and for sharing this history with us and with our audience as well. Tell us about what you guys are working on here. What is the Fossil Basin Institute, and what are you trying to achieve, and what are you trying to achieve with these historic buildings?
Well, we started back in 2010. There was a group of 4 of us that decided that this building would be just ideal for a science institute. So we expanded it to include not only scientific study, but also cultural history of this part of Lincoln County here in Wyoming.
That's awesome. Yeah. So what's your plan? So are you going to have field schools come in? Who's going to be here?
Okay. Yes, we already have 3 universities that have expressed interest to hold summer classes out here when this is done. We will put on periodic classes for the community on natural history, science, whatever they're interested in. We're going to convert the depot here into a lab. This is going to be our classroom, the old freight room. The passenger waiting room will be a museum featuring artifacts from the old town of Fossil.
Some of the stuff that we're here collecting
exactly,
today.
Yes. We have several things already that we have, just waiting to get it finished so we can get it open.
That's so cool that you're incorporating a historic building and giving it a modern use by allowing universities to come up here and to establish schools and to learn more about, the fossil history in this area. Mm-hmm. Because so we're in Kimmer, Wyoming, or not too far outside of Kimmer, Wyoming. Right behind us is the Fossil Butte National Monument. This is where some of the most incredible Eocene marine fossils on the planet are found. I'm sure some of you guys out there have seen in maybe a gift shop or a rock shop fossil fish. 9 times out of 10, this is where those fossil fish comes from. So there's a lot of universities that come out here, but there's really no accommodations for any of them. So you guys are going to not only give great accommodations, but reuse a historic building.
Exactly.
What type of freight was being brought in and out of this town?
I'm really not sure, but I know a lot of sheep. They have pins, stock pins to the west of us here that they loaded cattle on the railroad along with sheep. So it's always been a farming area. I don't know. And fossils were sold here.
Yeah.
Lee Craig, one of the famous ones, used to come down and meet the train and sell his fossils that he quarried up at Fossil Butte.
There's a super cool picture of all these old-time cowboys, like with one of those old 4-walled tents, holding, big plates of Diplomitis and Priscatarius, and it's just, it's cowboys holding fossils. Like, forget cowboys and aliens, nobody cares. Cowboys and fossils, that's what's cool. Okay. It's one of the neatest pictures that I've ever seen. So, well, take us and show us what you guys have done.
And one last thing, we are a nonprofit organization, and this building is registered with the state of Wyoming as a historic site through the National Park Service. So this is on the list of historic sites. It's the only Oregon Short Line Railroad original depot that still is left on the line from Granger, Wyoming to Huntington, Oregon.
Wow. So the railroad that was here was called the Oregon Short Line?
Right.
And it went from the Transcontinental Railroad up to, it was a spur from the Transcontinental Railroad up to Portland, Oregon, correct?
Right. It was the short line to Oregon.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we're, and guys like you hire, or not hire, but ask for commercial paleontologists or commercial archaeologists in this case to come out and to look for historic artifacts to bring into their museum. It's a common thing. It's really expensive to hire a major archaeological crew to come out and do a dig, but it's even simpler to hire a local group that can come out and find some stuff. And that's how artifacts get into museums like this, is just guys like us coming out and finding you some stuff and getting it to where you can display it.
What, would you like a tour?
Yes, let's
Okay.
check out the building. Come on. Oh, this is cool. That's epic. What is going on these walls?
Well, nowadays they may call it hobo art or something along that line, but we've researched some of the names that are on the walls here, and there are many employees of the Oregon Short Line. Oh. So our oldest one is from about 1891 up to, 1930, 1940.
So what you've got, guys, is it's a lot of, like you were saying, a lot of times this is considered hobo art, but you've done the actual research on the names on the wall and found out that most of these people were actually employees. So just like, you're in your place of employment, you're bored, you're sitting around, you want to doodle, you're going to doodle on the wall, and it just became such a big thing here, probably because not much was going on, that every employee, everybody that came through, put their name on the wall. What's some of the more unique names on the wall?
Well, I see A.H. Nichols, probably from Butte, Montana, up there. Let's see, we got a W.E. Brown from Lawrence, looks like Indiana. That was 1907. And let's kind of walk around here into the passenger waiting room, leave the freight room.
So this is the passenger waiting room.
This is the passenger waiting room. So passengers would come in the door,
Okay.
into the room here, and so in this corner we have the oldest insignias that we've been able to discover. We can see back in 1890s, little man's face is in there. We didn't know these were there until we tore the lath off and found out that, in the original building they even had it.
How excited were you when you started to deconstruct this building for historic preservation that you saw these? What was that feeling like?
Oh, it was exciting because, it just jumped out. Here's history. It's recorded, and hopefully we can save it.
That's so awesome. And what's even really cool, what a lot of people don't do, what you're doing, is you're actually researching the people, researching the name. Right now it's just a name on the wall, but with the research that you've done, that's a person. That's so cool. You're giving that name life.
We've actually have a list of all of the insignias in the freight room, and we're starting to match them up with census records to see what time those people were recorded in census, 1910, whether they lived in Fossil. Of course, that was Uintah County back then. It wasn't Lincoln County yet.
Yeah.
So what positions or what these people did, might say rancher. I think we had one, it was school teacher even. So
That's
we get all
cool.
sorts of, so we're getting the history of the people too.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Okay.
So let's look at the rest of this building. So this is the passenger waiting room. The passengers would come in to get on the train.
On the train.
Okay. What's the next room that we have here?
Okay. Well, this is the station master's room.
Okay.
This will be our science lab when we're done. So this will be microscopes and whatever we're doing to record the scientific information we're gathering. But we can see here this projection of the depot. The station master could look and see the trains coming either way.
Oh, that's
So,
cool. So
yeah.
that's why these windows
That's
are
why
here.
those bay windows are there, so they
No
can view
way.
the trains coming.
That's
and we had the
cool.
old wirings in here that controlled the signals.
Wow.
And
Was
the
there-
telegraph.
I was going to ask, was there a telegraph station here also?
This did have a Western Union telegraph office here because we found records down in the dirt beneath the floor here, right about where we are.
Wait, what?
Yeah, we don't know how they, over 100 years old.
What?
And we don't, they were about 1/4 of an inch below, covered in dust, pristine paperwork that told all about what was going on here. Freight moving through the depot, recorded everything that came and went. It was exciting.
That is such a cool find. Can you imagine finding documentation underneath the ground like that?
Buried.
Buried, literally buried.
Papers. That's how dry.
That's how, yeah, this area
is,
is.
yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. So, okay, station master here. What do we have over here?
This is just his working room.
Okay.
So,
What kind of work would the station master be doing?
well, he'd be in charge of all the freight coming and going.
Okay.
His family would live here.
So he had a house.
He
here
had a home.
locally.
And, sure, we had freight tracks that came on the back side so they could load in here.
Okay.
Of course, the main line, there were 2 lines out there.
Okay.
We come around the corner here, and now we enter the kitchen.
Okay.
So this is the kitchen,
Now,
their back door.
Who would the kitchen serve?
It would serve probably the crew that worked here at the station.
Okay, and so there would have been a
must have been a cook.
Full-time cook.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, that's so cool. This is like a mini operation that you've
Oh,
got going
yes.
on here.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, that's awesome.
You can see one of our old chimneys here. So the
yeah,
stove
stove
probably
would've been
set
here.
right in here.
Yep. Yep.
We think that this probably was one of the bedrooms. They probably had 2 bedrooms here.
So who would stay here overnight?
Well, that's a good question. We really don't know if they had a crew that was working here. Maybe they had some of them staying.
Yeah.
Because the station master did have a house. Or you may have lived down here. It's hard to say. Here's another one of our little bedrooms here.
So we got another bedroom in here. Oh, that's cool. So you're gonna take all of this down to the original?
We will strip all of the plaster and lath off.
Okay.
Once we get the ceilings, everything, and then we'll redo it again in the original style.
Nice.
And this particular room will be our office for the Institute, and this would just be, a social room. People come to visit or
That's
whatever.
so cool. What gave you the idea to do this? What possessed you to say, I'm going to spend my time and energy in purchasing some property, starting this institute, and revamping this ancient building?
I don't know. We literally, the 4 of us, myself and 3 friends from Seattle, we were sitting on the loading dock, and this vision of establishing an institute for science, all of them are we have a doctor, and we have a dentist, and we have a lawyer, and all ways of life, and it's just all interested in paleontology, and it's just like, this just sounded ideal.
Well, it's a great way to give back to paleontology, especially here, because there's not really many accommodations to stay here when people come to do field work. So this is epic. Now, when do you expect to be finished?
That's a good question. Money is, of course, what will drive us being able to get this to the point where we're at right now. We're working right now. I like to give credit to the Wyoming Cultural Trust Fund for a $25,000 grant that they gave us that's helping us put the new roof on.
Mm-hmm.
We have visitors.
We have visitors. Still need to be some evictions.
Yes. So, it may be 10 years. It's hard to say.
Yeah. But it's definitely a labor of love.
It is, yes.
That's
yes.
awesome.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you, if anybody in our audience wanted to either donate or get a hold of you or to help in any way, how can they do that?
Well, we'd appreciate that. We have a website, fossilbasininstitute.org.
We're going to put that right here, and then there'll be a link in the description.
Okay. And so there's information on our website that will tell about activities that are going on, help needed, volunteer parties for like this week. This is our annual summer volunteer week. Because
Nice.
everything we do here is volunteer.
So if some people wanted to come out and volunteer, they could get a hold of you on your website.
Exactly, yes. Last year we had a family, they were having a reunion down in Bear Lake, if I remember, and 10 people showed up one day. They saw the website, they
That's
said this would
awesome.
be great as a family, and everyone was involved doing something. So
And see, guys, you can't say that you cannot get involved in history. This is a great example to get involved in history. You know, you're looking for volunteers, you're looking for donations. This is a great way that you guys out there, you want to get involved in history, go click the link in the description below, contact the Fossil Basin Institute, and they will help you and hook you up.
exactly, we'd appreciate it.
This is great. First, thank you so much for having us here, and thank you so much for letting us be a part of bringing this back to life. We hope that the artifacts that we find for you throughout the rest of the week will be something that you guys can use and will be appreciated.
We're excited.
So awesome. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thanks a lot.
Yes, sir. All right, let's go check out the rest of the episode. Well, guys, we've reached the end of our dig. We've spent a couple days going all around this place to see what we could find to tell the story of this historic town and this historic depot. We were very lucky to get permission from a local rancher to explore a wider area around the depot where the actual town was, and that's really where we found the artifacts. Unfortunately, a lot of people over the years, as people like to do, would explore this old building since it was the last building or one of the last buildings standings. And you get people pick up souvenirs, you get, you know, relic hunters come and metal detect pieces. So around the actual building itself, there wasn't a whole lot, but it wasn't until we got to explore the wider area that we actually found some stuff that could tell a story. Ty, tell us some of the pieces that we've got here.
We've got a little bit of everything here. I mean, this is pretty much, this shows the whole history. This tells the whole story of what was happening here. I mean, we've got stuff that's 100 years old. We've got stuff that we picked up that was 30 years old. And it starts out with, you know, the simple cooking tools and things like that people used every day in their everyday lives, coffee pots and this enamelware. I mean, this was
Frying pans.
This enamelware was the best you could get back in the time as far as cooking. This was the best stuff you could get.
Yeah.
And that's what everybody used. I mean, tools that they used on everyday life.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of tools.
Chisels.
I mean, yeah, it's all scattered through here, but there is stuff just all over tools-wise.
Lighting stuff.
There's a lot of kerosene lamps. There's a whole, I mean, if we spent the time and actually dated a lot of these, they'd probably go from 1880s all the way up until, what, 40s?
Yeah, 40.
Probably
well,
40s, 30s, 40s. So it shows you the evolution of the
lighting,
lighting back in that time period. And, you know, they didn't have electricity to just flip a switch back then, so that was an important part of their life.
We also found some more personal stuff. One of the things that, Ty and I have done this all our lives, and one thing that you will find a million of is harmonica. I swear to God, everybody in history used harmonicas. Like there are billions of harmonica reeds out there, which is what this is, just a simple harmonica reed. We were surprised because when we were looking around the actual building itself, this is the kind of stuff that we expected to find that we did not find.
Yeah, always find those.
Yeah.
Always find those.
And that's how we know that this place has been hit really hard. But when we got out to the wider town, then we started finding the brass and the harmonica reeds and stuff like that we would expect to find. But personal items like a harmonica reed, this is a little makeup case, a little door to a makeup case. Really, really pretty piece. Forks. You know, this is the little lid to brass shoe tacks, which is kind of cool. So, I mean, we just found a lot of stuff that really tells the entirety of the history of this area, and a few things that opens up some questions. Ty, what is this, and what questions does that open?
So this is an assay crucible. So what this was used for was for testing ore, to see how much gold, silver, lead, how many metals the content was in the ore. So they would have put this in a kiln and melted it down, added flux, and seen how much ore was in here. So somebody around here was doing some prospecting at some point in time and hoping to strike it rich.
It's interesting because the only mining that's in this area, really the only mineral wealth that's in this area, is coal. They started mining coal in this part of Wyoming in the 1870s, 1880s. So to find a mining crucible for something that was for more precious metals, that really opens up a big question. Who was that person? What were they looking for? I mean, and that's why these types of surveys are really, really important, because not only does it answer, what the question of, what were the daily things that people were using, but it also allows you to figure out questions that you would have never thought to ask. So this is a big question that could tell a really great story.
Pocket watch. That's
Pocket watch.
That's another one you expect to find everywhere. Pocket watch, pocket knife, harmonica. Every site.
Probably one of the neatest things that we picked up is something Ty found. And
it's a little bit rough.
It's rough, but man, is it cool.
This is kind of neat. So you can see the little tire, the little wheels, the little spoke wheels. So this is a homemade, this will be something that can be cleaned up and straightened out a little bit, so it'll be a little bit more visible.
Yeah.
This is a little homemade steam engine. This is a little train that some kid was playing with here at the old train depot.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably one of the coolest things. This is a little kid or a kid's dad, got together scrap metal and some scrap wheels. There's the back wheel back here, and just made his kid a little homemade train, which is so freaking cool. Because, his kid, like all kids, you go back in history, it's the same thing. Kids were enamored by trains back then as they are today. And so some kid must have loved to see that train go by. So maybe for Christmas one year or for his birthday, his dad made him a little homemade train. That's probably one of the most personal touch things that we found here. Just, it tells a cool story. Probably one of the biggest thing is we've got our barrel next to us that we found. Tell us what about this barrel, Ty.
Well, Chase pulled this out from underneath the depot. This was actually underneath the building. So when they built this building, it probably had, I don't know what they would have had in it. I mean, maybe they just used it for nails or something like that while they were building the building. And just rather than having to haul it out the dump, they just kicked it in the floor before they put the floor on.
Yeah. But these types of things don't survive. You don't really see a lot of these barrels anymore. These were the equivalent to the cardboard boxes of the day. I mean, everything from nails to alcohol was thrown in bales like this. This is how, barrels like this, being that this is a train depot, there would have been tens of thousands of these that would have rolled through this depot. So to have one from the depot that was here is an incredibly rare find, because stuff like this, people gobble up and take home and, put on display. So this is a great display piece for this museum that they're building. Yeah, something that was actually here.
If this was dumped in a trash pit, left out in the weeds, this wouldn't survive a year at this point.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, a year or 2 years, all these barrels would have rotted and fell apart. So that had to have been somewhere dry and out of the weather for it to survive.
Yeah. This is a great survey that we've been a part of. We are so thankful for Ty for inviting us out to let us come and show you guys what a project like this looks like. These projects are incredibly important because, professional archaeology is very expensive, and on a place that has a low budget, they can get some volunteers to come in that have experience to find stuff their museum. It's a win-win for everybody, because all this stuff is doing out in the wilderness is rotting, is being destroyed. Even though there's not a lot of moisture here, in another 50 years, all of this metal would be gone. Yeah. It would just be eat up. So we are really lucky to have been a part of this. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Ty, if people want to get a hold of you, let's say somebody else has another project like this that they want to call you in on.
They can contact us online. We're Utah Dump Digger on Facebook, or you can Google us and we'll pull up. We're there all the time. We're always doing fun stuff, dinosaurs, everything else.
Oh, yeah. He gets into all kinds of cool stuff. Definitely want to follow Utah Dump Digger on Facebook. And then you can find us on all social media apps, programs, whatever. What are they called? Social media? I don't know. I ride horses. That's not my thing. If you have a social media account somewhere, we're on it, whether it be TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. You can go check us out at the Smoky Mountain Relic Room inside of Smoky Mountain Knife Works in Sevierville, Tennessee. We are right in the heart of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, so if you come visit, be sure to come down and check us out. And be sure to like, I hate saying this, but you got to. Be sure to like and subscribe this episode, guys. And throw some comments down in there. Let us know how we're doing. Because, you know, if there's something you want us to go see or film or do, let us know and we'll go do it. So.
And I believe you're going to be putting a link in that if somebody wants to join this organization and help rebuild this depot, they need help. They need both labor, they need volunteers, they need donations. There's a lot you can do to help preserve this history.
If you want to be a part of this history, if you want to be a part of this past, go down to the description below, click the link, and contact them. If you want to volunteer to come out here and help work on this depot, give them a call. If you just want to donate, give them a call, help them out, because they really need help. So there'll be a link in the description below. So, Ty, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. It was nice seeing you.
Remember, guys, history rocks. Woo!
God, that went by quick.
It did, didn't it?
Yeah.
These interviews do.
If I got talking, it'd take us all night.
Hold on, I got a good target. That happens all the time. Let me do that again. Part of it, you know. Let me do that one more time. This site is one fascinating site. That's what it is. That's a tack. And whoever invented these roof tacks and decided what metal should be in them should be hung, drawn, and quartered, because they sound just like the great stuff that you want to find. And there's a billion of these stupid little things compared to one or two of the really cool things that you want to find. And you got to take your time and dig them because they sound like a good target. So that's what that was. Stupid tack. You know, we flip a coin, see who gets to go down into the into that outhouse.
Is it the rabbit hole?
Yeah, down to the rabbit hole. So we're up. So behind me, hold on one second. Another lost structure we can find on the ground. Let me do that again. So we've been out over time. Let me do that again. So we've been out outside. Why do I keep saying that? One of the places that we got permission to. All right, you want to hop down and play? You want to get covered in rat poop? I'll come play in the rat poop.